We have all, in the silence of our own solitude, carried a peculiar and persistent loneliness, a feeling that we are in some essential way incomplete. We imagine this is a void to be filled by another, and so we search the world for our missing half. But what if I were to tell you that this loneliness is not a vacancy, but a preparation? It is the soul's carving, a sacred hollowing out, not for just any guest, but for one specific resonance. When two souls are fated, this hollowed space begins to echo. It is not a frantic search, but a profound recognition. A meeting of such souls is never an introduction, but a remembering. You look into the eyes of the other, and you see a truth you have always known in the deepest strata of your dreams, a truth you carried like a secret before you even knew its name. It is the shocking, quiet realization that the story you have been living is only a fragment, and the missing chapter has just, at last, walked into the room. This meeting is not merely a collision of two personalities, you see, but a confluence of two ancient streams flowing from the same mountain in the collective unconscious. There is a shudder in the psyche, a tremor that realigns the very architecture of the self. Your shadow, that hidden part of you which you have so diligently ignored, will stir, for it sees its own reflection in them, not the reflection of the light, but the reflection of the depth. And in that moment, you are presented not merely with a lover or a friend, but with a mirror. And in that mirror, you are shown not only who you are, but who you are destined to become. The journey that follows is not a smooth path of simple romance. It is the arduous, sacred work of individuation, now undertaken by two. You will be compelled to confront all that you are and all that you are not, for the soul does not grow in the comfort of shallow waters, but in the turbulent depths where the currents of two destinies meet. There is a sound, a faint but persistent resonance that does not come from the world outside you, but from the very foundations of your own being. You have heard it in the quiet moments between your thoughts, a distant hum beneath the noise of your daily life, a signature tone of your own soul. This is not a memory, not a wish, but something far more fundamental. It is the echo in the architecture of the self. Consider, for a moment, the structure of your own psyche, not as a finished building, but as a living, breathing entity that has been under construction since the dawn of human consciousness. Within you are rooms you frequent with confidence, halls bright with the light of your awareness. But there are also sealed chambers, forgotten wings, and deep foundational stones laid long before your personal history began. The entire structure possesses a unique vibrational frequency, a note that is utterly and uniquely your own. And this note, by its very nature, seeks not an answer, but a harmony dot. When you walk through the world, you are broadcasting this frequency, this subtle psychic pitch. Most encounters are mere noise, a clatter of disparate sounds that leave no lasting impression. But then, there is the moment, the inexplicable, undeniable moment when you encounter another soul whose fundamental note is pitched to create a perfect harmonic with your own. This is the echo you have been hearing. It is the sound of your own structure being answered. It is not that you are meeting a stranger. You are encountering a resonance that has been woven into your own blueprint from the beginning. This is why the experience is one of profound recognition, a shocking familiarity that defies logic. You are not learning something new about them. You are remembering something ancient about yourself. The walls you have built around your heart, the foundations you thought were solid, begin to vibrate with a new and potent energy. This is the terrifying and glorious beginning of a psychological event of the greatest magnitude. This echo does not merely make you feel good, it makes you feel *real*. It amplifies parts of you that were silent and reveals corridors in your own soul you never knew existed. The other person becomes a living tuning fork, struck against the universe, and their vibration forces every hidden aspect of your being to ring in sympathy. Your strengths are magnified, yes, but so too are your frailties. Your shadow, that hidden part of yourself you have diligently ignored, is suddenly illuminated by this resonant light. You can no longer pretend it's not there, for its shape is now cast clearly upon the wall. This is the great challenge and the great gift of such a meeting. It initiates a necessary and often turbulent period of reconstruction. The entire architecture of the self is tested. What was once a stable, perhaps rigid, structure must now prove its flexibility, its capacity to hold this new, powerful energy without collapsing. The echo becomes a call to rebuild, to integrate, to make the whole structure more sound, more complex, and more truly aligned with the destiny that was written into its original design. This is the sacred disruption that heralds the journey toward wholeness. And so, with the architecture of the self resonating, a profound and ancient process is awakened within the depths of the psyche. It is a process not of learning, but of recollection. This is the moment when the soul remembers its counterpart. You must understand, this feeling of recognition is not the pleasant familiarity of a shared interest or a common history. It is a staggering visceral shock, as if a memory from a dream you could never quite grasp has suddenly stepped in full flesh and blood into your waking life. It is the shudder of the timeless within the temporal. You look into this other, and it is as if you are reading a text written in a language lost to the world, but one which your own heart has never forgotten. The encounter feels less like a first meeting and more like a homecoming to a place you have never physically been, a reunification with a part of your own essence that you had, until this very moment, only experienced as a haunting absence. This remembrance is the most compelling evidence we have for the existence of that deeper, collective layer of the psyche realm, where the boundaries of individual lives grow thin and permeable. In that moment of meeting, it is as if two separate streams of experience, flowing through time, suddenly remember they are tributaries of the same great river. The conversations you will have are not merely exchanges of words, but the slow and deliberate deciphering of a shared inner myth. You will find yourselves uncovering parallel scars, sympathetic wounds that seem to have been inflicted by the same archetypal struggle long before your individual stories ever crossed. Your private symbols, the recurring motifs of your dreams and fears will find a startling correspondence in theirs. This is not coincidence, it is confirmation. It is the psyche providing its own proof that what is happening is not a random accident of fate, but the fulfillment of a pattern laid down long ago. This act of remembrance is, therefore, the true beginning of the most sacred and arduous journey, the journey of individuation undertaken by two. It is a call to consciousness that cannot be ignored. To meet your counterpart is to be presented with a living mirror that reflects not only your light, but also your absolute and unvarnished truth. It forces you to remember not just your connection to them, but to remember yourself, your whole self, in all its grandeur and its fragility. This mirror does not flatter, it reveals. It shows you the nobility you doubted and the shadows you fled, and it demands that you integrate them both. The comfort of amnesia is shattered. You can no longer pretend to be less than you are, because this other soul, by its very existence, remembers you as you were always meant to be, and thus the journey unfolds not as a search for completion in another, but as a mutual remembering of the wholeness that was always there, waiting to be reclaimed, and thus, when this remembrance shakes the very foundations of your being, you are presented with the most potent and terrifying instrument of transformation, the sacred mirror of the unconscious. This is the profound and inevitable consequence of such a meeting. The other soul becomes a living reflection, but not of your curated persona, not of the mask you so carefully present to the world. This mirror is mercilessly polished by the hand of fate itself, and it holds up to you an image of your entire self, the gleaming spires of your potential and the crumbling, shadow-drenched ruins you have long sought to ignore. To encounter your fated other is to be granted a vision of your own totality, and the sight is as devastating as it is liberating. You are faced, for the first time, with the true architecture of your own soul in its complete and paradoxical glory. This mirror does not show you what you want to see, it shows you what you need to see. Their strength will illuminate your own latent potentials, yes, but their unconscious habits, their subtle flaws, even their deepest wounds, will act as a perfect reflection of your own hidden aspects. The qualities in them that inexplicably irritate you, that trigger a disproportionate response, are very often the externalized echoes of your own rejected shadow. You will see in them your own unacknowledged fears, your secret arrogances, your repressed passions. They become a walking, talking manifestation of your own unconscious content. This is why these relationships are so intensely magnetic and yet so frequently challenging. It is not a battle between two people, but a drama within a single psyche played out across two separate bodies. You are not arguing with them, you are arguing with the disowned parts of yourself that they have come to embody. To stand before this sacred mirror requires immense courage. It demands the abandonment of the comfortable illusion that you are only what you consciously wish to be. The process of looking deeply into this reflection initiates the great work of integration. You are compelled to withdraw your projections, to take back the parts of yourself you have placed upon them, and to own them. This is the alchemical fire of relationship. The love you feel for them becomes the catalyst that makes this unbearable self-confrontation possible. It is for the sake of this wholeness, hinted at in their eyes, that you find the strength to embrace the stranger you have always been to yourself. This is the sacred purpose of the encounter, to force you to see, and in seeing, to begin the arduous task of becoming. And so we arrive at the great work itself, the transformation that can only occur when this sacred mirror has done its necessary and unflinching work. This is the alchemy of inevitable encounter. For when two souls fated for one another are brought into such profound and unsettling proximity, a psychic reaction is initiated that mirrors the oldest of transformative arts. It is a process of dissolution and coagulation, of burning away and forging anew. The carefully constructed persona, the ego you believed was your entire self, is plunged into the alembic of this relationship. The heat generated by this collision, the friction of your deepest wounds meeting, the fire of your highest ideals clashing threatens to dissolve everything you thought was solid. This is not destruction, though it may feel like it. This is the necessary breaking down of old forms, the separation of the essential from the dross, so that a new, more integrated substance can be created. You must understand this alchemical fire is not merely passion or romance. It is the scorching truth of confrontation with the self reflected through the other. The base metals of your unconscious impulses, your primal fears, your hidden longings are all thrown into the vessel. The relationship becomes the retort, the sealed container where this intense pressure can be contained and put to work. In the heat of conflict and the ecstasy of connection, your individual identities seem to soften, to lose their rigid boundaries. This is the stage the alchemists called *negrido*, the blackening, the dark night of the soul where all seems lost and chaotic. It is a period of profound disorientation, for the old you is dying, and the new you has not yet taken shape. But within this chaos, the guiding hand of the psyche is at work. The same force that drew you together now orchestrates this dissolution with a purpose that transcends your conscious understanding. The love that exists between you acts as the transforming agent, the philosophical mercury that can bind the incompatible and unite opposites. Slowly, from the blackness, new insights begin to crystallize. The qualities you once fought against in yourself, now seen clearly in the mirror of the other, are integrated. A golden understanding begins to precipitate from the solution of your shared experience. This is the emergence of the *lapis*, the philosopher's stone, not a physical object, but a psychological state of wholeness and resilience, forged in the shared fire of two destinies becoming one. This is the final stage of the great work, where the lead of your isolated self is transmuted into the gold of a boundless capacity to be dot, and from this alchemical fire, what finally emerges is not a blending, not a compromise, but something far more potent, the magnificent and terrifying collision of two complete worlds. For this is the great paradox we must finally confront, that the wholeness we seek is not found in the erasure of our individuality, but in the glorious and catastrophic meeting of two entirely self-contained universes. Each of you arrives at this moment not as a fragment seeking its missing piece, but as a sovereign psyche, a vast and intricate cosmos with its own laws of gravity, its own unique constellations of memory and trauma, its own dark matter of unlived life. The fated encounter, then, is not the gentle docking of two boats in a calm harbor. It is the planetary collision that scatters the elemental stuff of both into the void, where new stars and new worlds can eventually form. You must understand, the initial impact is one of almost unbearable intensity. The gravity of their being pulls on the very fabric of your own, distorting the orbits of your long-held beliefs, shaking the foundations of your most sacred assumptions. The climate of your inner world changes overnight. Where there was arid certainty, now storms of passion and outrage. Where there was frozen habit, now rivers of new feeling begin to flow. This is a psychological event of geological force. The tectonic plates of your character grind against theirs, and in the friction, everything that is unstable and false is revealed. This is not a peaceful merger. It is a creative catastrophe. The sound it makes is the symphony of your old self breaking apart, and it is precisely from this rubble that the new, more resilient structure must be built. For a time, it may seem like chaos, a cosmic disaster, but inherent in this collision is a hidden, intelligent order. The very force that shatters your isolated world is the same force that liberates the elements trapped within it. Your capacity for a love you thought yourself incapable of, your reservoirs of courage you never tapped, even the depths of a rage you always feared all of it, is suddenly freed from its confinement and brought to the surface. The collision force is an expansion of consciousness so radical that you can no longer inhabit the small world you once called yourself. You are compelled to build a new one, a shared atmosphere, a biosphere of two. You do not become the same. You become more deeply, complexly yourselves, now in dynamic and eternal relation to another complete solar system, sharing a common sun dot, and in the vast, silent expanse of the psyche, a new galaxy is born dot. And what is the source of this profound disruption, this cosmic realignment that reroutes the very river of a life? It is because this collision was never an accident of random celestial bodies. It was written. It is the unwritten blueprint of the psyche made manifest. Long before your first meeting, the contours of this encounter existed as a potentiality deep within the structural laws of your own soul, a subtle design pressed into the very fabric of your being, waiting for the moment of its activation. You have carried this latent pattern within you all along, like a seed that holds the entire destiny of the oak, not as a predetermined fate, but as a profound and compelling inclination of the heart toward a specific kind of completion. This is the hidden geometry of the self, the sacred mathematics that governs the attractions, which feel less like choice and more like remembrance. This blueprint is not a detailed script. It is a foundational arrangement of archetypal forces. It dictates the specific qualities of the soul that would be necessary to compel your own growth, to challenge your deepest illusions, to love the parts of you that you have deemed unlovable. It is the reason why a mere similarity of interest could never suffice. The blueprint calls for a specific resonance, a precise frequency of character that will act upon your own like a key turning in a lock you may not have even known existed. When you encounter this other, it is not that you are learning a new story. You are, at last, fulfilling the oldest story you possess, the one written in the language of symbols in the silent, pre-conscious chambers of your heart. The sense of inevitability you feel is the shock of recognition as your lived experience finally, perfectly, aligns with this inner architecture dot. To follow this blueprint is to embark on the journey you were always meant to take, though the path will be of your own making. It is a guidance system, not a prison. It presents the necessary conditions for your wholeness, but the work of building remains yours. Every challenge, every moment of profound understanding, every painful confrontation is a clause in this silent contract your soul drafted for its own salvation. You are not being controlled by fate. You are being invited by the deepest, most intelligent part of your own nature to step into the life that most perfectly expresses its hidden design dot, and so you walk a path that feels both terrifyingly new and ancient beyond measure. Each step a discovery and a homecoming dot, and so we arrive at the final, most terrifying and most glorious stage of this great unfolding, the passage from recognition to rebirth, the forging of a shared destiny. For the recognition of the blueprint, the seismic collision of two worlds, was never the destination. It was a catalyst. It was the ignition of a psychological process that must now inevitably lead to a death and a birth. The self you were, that solitary and sovereign universe, could not withstand such an encounter and remain unchanged. It must now surrender its old form, much as raw surrenders itself to the smelter's fire, to be remade into something new, something that never existed before, a shared soul, a co-created fate. This forging is an act of conscious participation in your own transformation. The initial blissful recognition has passed. The unsettling mirror has done its work. The alchemical fires have burned away your illusions. Now, in the heat and pressure that remains, you are faced with a choice, not a choice of whether to be with this other but the far more profound choice of whether to become this new united being. It is a slow, deliberate, and often painful process, like two precious metals being hammered into a single, stronger alloy. Your individual wills, your personal histories, your separate fears and dreams are all brought to the anvil. Every conflict navigated with grace, every vulnerability met with trust, every shadow acknowledged with compassion is another strike of the hammer, folding you together, strengthening the bond. This is not the loss of self, but the transcendence of the isolated self. You do not vanish, you are integrated into a larger pattern. The shared destiny that is forged is not a single path, but a dynamic, living entity, a third psyche, born from the relationship itself. This entity has its own needs, its own purpose, its own destiny that is greater than the sum of its parts. It guides you, challenges you, and demands that you grow in ways you could never have conceived alone. You begin to live not merely for yourself or even for each other, but for this mysterious, co-created life that exists between you. Your individual journeys are not abandoned. They become the twin threads woven into a single, unbreakable tapestry, and thus you are reborn, not from a womb, but from a crucible two souls, now the guardians of a single sacred flame. And so, my friends, we stand at the threshold of the great mystery. We have followed the echo, heeded the remembrance, and braved the sacred mirror. We have endured the alchemical fire and survived the glorious collision, and in doing so, we have taken up the hammer to forge a destiny that was written in the very stars of our souls. Let this knowledge settle, not as a comfort, but as a charge. Let it ring through the halls of your being until it becomes an undeniable truth. You are not a passive witness to your life. You are an active, conscious participant in the creation of your own destiny. The call to wholeness is the most profound command the psyche can issue. It is a call that must be answered with every courageous step, every willing descent into your own depths, and every open-hearted embrace of the love that both shatters and rebuilds you. Do not fear the chaos of the collision. Do not flee the heat of the forge. For it is in that very chaos that new worlds are born, and it is in that white-hot fire that the unbreakable alloy of your true spirit is tempered. So I say to you, go forth from this place unstoppable, carry this blueprint in your heart, and walk boldly toward the resonances that shake you. Have the courage to recognize the soul that remembers yours. Do not merely seek love summon, the terrifying, magnificent transformation it demands. Live the myth that chose you before you even knew its name. The greatest journey, the one that leads to the very center of your own existence, awaits. May you have the immense courage to take the first step. Thank you, and good luck on your unforgettable journey.